All right, thanks for tuning in to BlackListed Mx. We got another special guest in the studio today. He's out of Woodville, Ontario, number 719. His name is Devin Ray. He's going to tell us a little bit about his story. I want everybody to know that this podcast is for grassroots, privateers, pros, the whole nine and everything in between. But we got a special one for you today. He's ripping a two-stroke out there during the Nationals, so I'm sure he's got some stories to tell. It's going to be interesting, so let's get into it. So talk to us, Devin Ray. How you doing?
Oh, good. Living the dream, as some might say. Working full time. Working full time, pay for this whole racing thing. So
Yeah.
can't,
It's expensive, man, to be able to afford the sport. You know how that is already, especially being a pro. You know, it's travel expenses, bike repairs, everything. You know what the price is because you're doing it now. So you got to work full time to maintain the sport.
yeah, for sure. And having the little bit of support we get as privateers definitely helps out and cuts the cost. But it's still paycheck to paycheck, making sure we get to the races every weekend. And if we can't get to the races, it's a little more money to go the weekend after, as far as I look at it. But
Yeah. Everybody's got a different perspective on where they're coming from or what they're going through in life, and that's going to contribute into your racing for sure. Some guys can afford to do it every weekend and week out, and some guys got to select the races that they want to go to. And as far as you're working full time, are you? I know you graduated school. Are you a college student? Are you going to school? Or you just want to work, or how's that working out for you?
So I'm just going to work. I dropped out of college about 2 weeks in. Wasn't for me, especially with the whole COVID situation. All my stuff was online, and for me, that's not how I can learn.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very hands-on learner, I find, and so I got a full-time job at Acon now. So making good money to pay for my racing, but it definitely with work, I can't put racing over work at this point, and
Mm-hmm.
it takes away from the amount of racing I get to do. But
Mm-hmm.
I still get when I get out, it's always a great time to go out to the track, see all the friends you have there.
Mm-hmm.
The track's a tight knit family. It's always nice to be at the track, as far as I'm concerned. It's the closest friends I have. I've met racing, and that's kind of shaped who I am as a person now.
Mm-hmm. So you play a little bit of hockey too, besides your racing, huh?
Yeah, I played hockey my whole life, kind of like Sam Gaynor. Never got to play against Sam, but
Mm-hmm.
there was always a chance. Could always play with Sam in the future, both
Mm-hmm.
being up kind of the same area. But no, I played hockey my whole life, and kind of I found hockey and motocross they kind of help each other out, just in different categories of the hand-eye coordination and fast thinking and just keeping in shape over the winter, not being able to go down south and staying in school full time. It was nice to have that other sport and get that camaraderie that you don't quite get in motocross,
Yes.
just to kind of help. I found both things really built character in a person.
Oh yeah, that's totally understandable. It builds a balance as well too, definitely. And also, how do you you train? How do you train besides hockey in the wintertime since you don't go down south to do any riding?
No, so I got a full gym in my house that I try to get into once or twice a week. And with work right now, working a physically demanding job, I don't get in there quite as much. So I'll go for a run and a walk still. Even when it's colder, I'll go for a run. And then I do a lot of snowmobiling in the winter. So it kind of helps out and just having fun doing other things. And that kind of still keep me active. And I know snowmobiling is it's a little different than riding a dirt bike, but you're still throwing a machine around. You're still out having fun. And I think to me with racing now it's at the point I just want to have fun with it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of why I got the two stroke now. So it's kind of bring back the roots of being on little bikes, and the 450 is fun to ride, but it's a lot more of a workout, and
No,
sometimes
yeah.
that's not as fun for me.
Yeah, they say it's a lazy man's bike, but it still gives you a hell of a workout. That's for sure. What do you got planned for next year? You plan on ripping the two-stroke again?
I think I'm gonna go just to the 450 again next year, stick just to that, just from a working point of view. It's a lot not less maintenance, but it's more reliable to me than it
Mm-hmm.
is the two stroke, and it's a lot easier for me to put that together in a race than spend every second I'm at home putting the 150 back together and rebuild, and just the price of everything now,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing if you're going to get that rebuild kit when you need it with the
Yeah,
way everything's shipping.
yeah.
So to me, just having a reliable 450 that I can go out and race the outdoors with and put a little pressure on myself is nice to hit races when I can.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely wouldn't mind next year getting down to the States if the opportunity presents itself to race some of the arena cross like I see some of the guys are doing right now and
Yeah.
get more into the indoor stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
it's all kind of based on how work goes.
Have you done any indoor stuff, any arena cross, supercross stuff out this way, out in Ontario?
In 2018, I did the Barrie Arena Cross in the junior class. That was
Okay.
my first kind of kick at Arena Cross, and it was a good experience. And I think now I'd like to do the Supercross stuff. I had a track built, and just I was blowing out fork seals left and right, and it got too much money to keep putting fork seals in every week because I'd be spending time during outdoors for before Transcan riding Supercross, and
Hmm.
then I'd be going rushing around getting parts to go race outdoors. But I think I'd like to do it more. I kind of like the technical aspect of it and want to
Yeah.
give it more of a shot. But
Hmm.
that's kind of where I'm at. Just I want to try it, get more into it. Cause I think being a taller rider, I think I could do pretty good in it.
Okay. Yeah,
But
you're pretty tall.
it's
I was watching some of your videos, but you got a lot of style, man. I was watching you. You can whip it pretty good. And, you seem like you got some nice, smooth momentum, and you're a fairly decent rider, man. You're pretty good. So if you're having fun, keep doing it. Especially, you know what I mean. Um,
yeah, yeah, for sure, definitely with racing. Like this year, I didn't race quite as much as I would have the last couple of years. Like 2018, I think was kind of like my last full season, and this year I think I only raced. My last time I raced was the second outdoor at Walton, like the second day or day two, I guess, of Walton one.
hmm
Just with racing, I put so much pressure on myself this year, it kind of took the fun away from it. So as much as it was
uh,
fun to go to the track, I just had as much fun coming home and riding here with a couple buddies on the
yeah.
weekend at my own track, and just wanted to get back to like that having fun on my dirt bike again because I felt like I put so much pressure on myself the last two seasons where I took that away from myself.
Yeah.
And I think to me with racing, if you're not having fun, it's one of those things that makes it harder to do it every weekend. And
Yeah.
to go back and kind of go back to square one where it all started really
hmm
has me ready to go for next year to get
hmm
things lined up. And that's kind of the way it was. But took the time this year. I taught my girlfriend how to ride in
hmm
the less, maybe not the ideal way to do that one was put her on the 150, but it's all I had to offer. So to say it could have went better
Yeah, it's
is
a
an
lot better than
understatement.
that 450.
Yeah, but no, it was good having her learn. She got to
hmm
experience kind of what it is as someone who doesn't ride or race or anything like that. And
Yeah.
she got to see what it's like to crash too, so that was a good experience.
Wow, wow. So, let me ask you this: what are your plans for going into next year exactly? I mean, you got some selected races. You said you can kind of work right now to actually put you into next year. You got some selected rounds that you want to do. Are you planning on doing all the rounds total?
Um, I think it's kind of just one of the things. So with my job, I can get told I can work in British Columbia or out of the country even if I have to. But
Hmm.
to me, I'd like to. I don't really get put back to work. I get put off in the winter, so it's really nice. I get to time to prep bikes and get everything set up over the winter,
Hmm.
while still taking a little bit of money on the side if I can, and can get really in shape because I found with work, as much as I'm doing a physically demanding job, it's
Hmm.
one of those things. The fitness is not the same because there's different motions every day. It's
Yes.
so it'll be nice to get back the winter. I can get on a full training program again and come out. Hopefully, we can get started a little sooner than July. And
Hmm.
I think that'd be nice to get back to starting in May or even April if we can get some indoor rounds in to start
Hmm.
and get the Triple Crown Series back to doing the arena cross to start the year. It would be
Nice.
nice to hit that full series.
Hmm.
But I think for me, it'll mostly be Ontario rounds,
Okay.
just being traveling everywhere. It's expensive, and having me back on work on Monday, it's kind of one of those things that kind of takes
Yeah.
away like the option. If I have the opportunity to go to Deschambault, I'll definitely take that. But
Yes.
it's always up in the air for racing for me at this point. So
Okay. Okay. Huh. So
try to make the racing, but
So where do you get most of your practice done at? I mean, you said you got a home track. You do a lot of your training there. Do you? Because tracks here are a little bit, further out from each other. So you got to drive hours to get to a track, and that's money as well. And if you want to come into the sport right after the winter and you want to get in shape and start riding again, you just got something set up at home for you, or how's that work out for
yeah,
you?
I got a full track at my house, and I have a couple of the AMO riders like Ty Latin, he won our two-stroke class, and that he comes over and I ride with Ty probably in the summer on the weekend if there's no race. We'll ride here and we'll do sections, we'll do motos together, and a couple other buddies. So Kyle King will come ride. Quinn Amiot's mentioned coming out a few times. So we get some fast guys over and we get some good riding going and push each other. And I've got my track built up. So I got lucky last year. I was riding the start of March. And it was lucky, and
Mm-hmm.
I have enough machinery, I can prep it. If I really was in the mood, if it wasn't so cold up here, I could ride it all year round. I know last year
Mm-hmm.
I was riding it in the middle of December, so
Wow.
snow
Okay.
was flying and just. But where I live, we got a couple practice tracks. I know there's a couple sand tracks down 20 minutes from my house, and a couple different outdoor tracks around here. Just local people just having tracks with a lot of motocross people moving out of town. They've all kind of came here. It's very central for where we race. So
Oh, okay.
3 hours to Sandali and 2 hours to Gopher and 2.5 to Walton. So I'm kind of just in a nice spot where I'm like within 2 hours, 3 hours to all the Ontario races. So
Mm-hmm.
it makes it nice. And having a good group of people to ride with is always good to
That's
have
true.
around.
That's true. You got a few good guys that you can actually train and better yourselves with, and kind of chase each other around to get yourself prepared for that outdoor race. I see you. I see you got a couple trophies and stuff in the background. You want to tell us about those?
Yeah, so when I was in grade 8, so I think it was like 2014, I went on to the big bike, which a lot of people consider it was early, but I was probably 5'9" or 5'10" in grade 8. I was a tall kid.
Wow, yeah,
So
super tall.
I was really tall, so like I only did, because I started racing, let's go back to the start. I started racing, it was the last year, it was a 10 to 11 65 rider. So I got my 65 for Christmas, and that's kind of what started the whole racing thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I got into the racing a lot later than most people, for especially I think for a lot of the pro guys to get in at a later age.
Mm-hmm.
And then I raced just my local track from here. It's about half an hour. They have a series every year, just like 9 races throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard about the McGuire series, which is like it's closed its doors since I went there, but did a couple of years on an 85 there and super minis and raced there. So my first full time race in that, I was in the 250 beginner class, and they kind of did like they broke their series up to like a spring series, summer, and then the 6 foot series. So
Okay.
the got to do a full series of that, and it was kind of nice. It was laid back series, not ultra competitive. You had your fast guys like Jamie Powell, and that would be there, and Jack Wright, and people like that, and
Mm-hmm.
you had good people there, but it was a really laid back environment I found, and it was nice to have that for racing, where you just have fun, you'd hang out and
Mm-hmm.
go out and bang bars and come off and joke around together after about it. But
Yeah, exactly.
went into it, and I just never really put pressure on myself like I have to win racing. I just kind of always believed like if you want to put yourself in a title fight, you just got to finish every race first.
Mm-hmm.
It was always like my dad's thing on the gate was always, "How do you win a race?" And I said, "And that's you got to finish that race first." And that's kind of how we based our whole racing off.
Mm-hmm.
So came in and won these two 6 foot trophies in the beginner classes in
Mm-hmm.
2014. At an age where most people would be saying you shouldn't be on a 250F at this point. And being a
Mm-hmm.
tall kid, I might not have been fully ready for it, but I think it turned out to help.
Mm-hmm.
Learning that big bike control as a smaller kid and growing up a little bigger, getting stronger and inevitably getting faster in the end. But it was good doing
How
that and was
how'd you or not how, but when did you end up turning pro? When you said, you know what, this I'll take this race and I'll turn pro here. I'll ride this last race and I'll turn pro here and I'll start jumping into the nationals. When was that decision made?
So last year going into well, it was 2019. My plan was to go. I was going to try Loretta's qualifiers and go down and try and race the B class at Loretta's.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't end up making that. I got hurt in a practice crash at Gopher, just breaking in the bike and getting it dialed in for the first race and qualifiers for Transcan at Gopher. So I ended up breaking my leg and having to get foot ankle reconstruction. So 2019, I kind of laid on the couch
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the year. Didn't get back on my feet out of a cast till almost the middle of July. So I didn't race till the middle of July, and then from there, just hit a couple of races. Went to the McGuire's National at Madoc, which is kind of like a cool down national
Uh-huh.
they used to do every year, and then went down to the Can-Am Arid area and raced that. And the plan for that year was to go get a race the Pro Nationals as a 250 class as an intermediate
Mm-hmm.
and try to get that pro number. But because that didn't happen, I took back in the second year in intermediate, went and raced Transcan in the 250 class and the 450 class,
Okay.
and was raced a couple outdoors that year. Raced Walton, the last round at Walton, I believe it was, in the 250 class, and that was my first pro race as an intermediate, and I think I scored like a 27th overall,
Mm.
which I was happy with. I showed up my race bike at the time was a Cowie, and it blew up. Training, doing like a break-in ride, and couldn't get parts in time, so I ran to the dealership and picked up a KTM 3 days before Transcan and showed up on a bike I'd never rode before and raced the Pro National. So
Damn.
it was a less than ideal situation, but made the best of it. And
Exactly.
next thing I know, I was switching full time to KTM and Husqvarna now.
Wow. So
Just that
you've been with
awesome
those
bike.
guys ever since, huh? Riding.
Yeah, just the last year, and it's just kind of the bike suited me more. But
Okay.
I think I felt more. It was one of those things. I got on it and I felt at home right away
Mm-hmm.
on that steel chassis, and it just that year I was switching back because I had a Kawasaki 450, so I was going between two different bikes and two different chassis styles, moto to moto. So it was a lot of people looked at me kind of funny for it, but I think that adjustability and range I felt I had in jumping bike to bike was beneficiary for me.
Mm-hmm.
But some people it's less than ideal, but it's one of those things, it's your comfort zone. And I was always the kid, I'd crash and I'd have a bent handlebar and I'd still try and make a charge back and come off. And people go, how do you ride your bike like this? And I went, no, it's the throttle turned and the bar still moved around. So we did. That was always kind of run what you brung. So if it showed up and I couldn't get bars in time, the bent bars were getting ran and we were still going racing.
Hey, like you said, you got to make the fun out of it and the best out of it for what you have. So what was one of your most memorable moments when you actually turned pro? And was it just a step up for you, like a major step up? It was something that you thought about and you were like, you know what, it's going to be a little bit harder than what I thought it was. Is this something I want to do, or is this, I'm gonna stick 100% into this, and then this is what I want to do?
I think that decision was it was a 250 class. It was after Transcan in my last year at Transcan in 2020 when I podiumed my last intermediate race, as when I podiumed in the 450 intermediate class alongside Austin Jones and Julian Bennick, and I kind of knew that Julian was going to go pro. He raced the outdoors all year, and Austin was signing with MX1 to go pro the next season. It was one of those things. It was like, I can get up and I can run close to these guys, and I felt the need. I just, like, as myself as a rider, I wanted, like, your whole goal as a kid growing up is to make it to that level, and I had the opportunity to go there and just went for it and kind of went into it blind a little bit. So first round this year, went off the gate and got a good start and just had one of those fluke incidents, had a brake lock up on the first lap going to the finish at Walton. And it was a good thing, but being able riding through the pack to 24th or something, the first 450 moto of the year, kind of showed me, like, made me feel like I do belong here in the class, and kind of just was going out and putting those close to top 20 results in every moto, and just getting off the line was kind of one of those things when you used to look up and look at Dylan Wright and Jess Pettis. Now you look across the line, you look at them going, these are guys I'm on the gate with now. It's a good feeling, especially as a privateer, to say you've made it there. And especially not starting at such a young age, never really racing until I was on 85s essentially.
It's got to be a good feeling because I mean I've rode and raced many times. I've never turned pro, of course. I've never was a pro, but just those memories of being on a starting line, not even as a pro, you know what I mean, was just memories that was created for me over my time periods when I was racing. And just to be on the line, like, say if I was in your shoes, to be on the line and you watched all these guys race and you know they were pro and you finally getting on the line with them, it's got to be a hell of an experience.
No, it's definitely a great experience, especially up here at the Canadian Series. The guys are all really laid back too. So I know at Walton this year when we did the later start, I think it was the Friday, the first round, they had the 50 classes going first. So I helped out a little 50 kid this year and kind of got close to him and his family and just kind of helped him at the gate and had him. He's going to come over and ride, I think, more next year at my track and work with a little kid. And I think for me, that's kind of what I like with the racing now. I'm at that point when I can help kids and help build the future of the sport a little bit. Yes. So it was nice. I went up to the gate with him, and at the same time I was with the gate on him, and he's looking at me. He's going, is that Dylan right beside me? And I went, yeah. So I got Dylan to come talk to him, and me and Dylan were joking around on the gate together with the 50 kids and then lining up against each other later that day to race, which kind of a fun experience when you're laid back like that before a race and the helmets go on and everything's kind of tunnel vision. I seem to me I get really tunnel vision when I race, but it was kind of nice to see her had the fans back racing. It was really good, especially when you'd hear them laying over the fence for you. It was a great feeling to have that. So
it's always good to give back, man. Especially, you know how you were when you first got it, when you were a kid and you were looking at all the top pros, watching them race, and you wanted to be like those guys. And when they came over, you got their autograph or whatever it was. You when you see those kids smile on their face, man, it's like it feels good to give back when you're doing it at the same time. So that's a beautiful thing that you're doing. I see a lot of guys that are former pros, that stop racing, and it's like once it's in your blood, it's in your blood. And these guys are now training and doing schools and training other riders to help them critique their style or help them turn pro or whatever their goals may be. And if that's something you're doing, man, I commend you for that, because you see a lot of guys and they quit the sport and you don't see them anymore. You don't hear from them, but the guys that are bred or however they take it and they come back to the sport and they give back to the sport, it's just an honor thing. Even at your class, even at where you're at, I say thank you for it, because a lot of these guys don't have that, don't have the opportunity to even talk with some of the pros or even be able to conversate with, because they're so caught up in their style and their riding during this time period. Like they just kind of want to focus on themselves and get themselves going. But when you don't focus on yourselves and you come back and you're giving back to the kids, even when you're still pro and you're doing what you're doing, is like I said, I commend you. So it's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, no, for me, it was kind of with racing, it was like, to me, it's a very family oriented sport as much as people from the outside there look in and go, oh, it's just you there. But it's, to me, it's the background, it's the people that support you behind the scenes that you don't see, all your sponsors, your friends, your family, everyone that doesn't get the spotlight when they really should. Because I know with like the factory guys, it's everyone looks, they see just the pros on the track, but there's
Mm-hmm.
so much in the background you don't see. And having that support group there with whether they're there and they're just your friend or they're just a fan of you. Like I know this year I had the little kids over. I do take pictures of some little kids, and then
Mm-hmm.
at Walton the one day I took a bunch of group of little kids around. I went around, took them over to talk to Jess and go under and meet Marshall and everything, and took them around to see a lot of the pro riders. And there were some of the pro riders back in the pits, the privateer end of the pits, that I went and walked through and saw them. And it was nice to see even the privateers at the back. It was kind of nice for them, sign some shirts for some little kids. And
Mm-hmm.
to give back is, to me, it's a big thing. Sport motocross, for longevity reasons, I like the thought of giving back. And if I'm not racing, if it comes to a point I can't race and I still get to go help a kid out or
Mm-hmm.
help people out and learn or teach or whatever racing takes me, it's kind of a good feeling. But the future is always an open path, and I'm going to see where mine goes with racing.
Mm-hmm. So
Giving back.
do you have any goals? Say like within the next year or two within racing, some realistic goals that you like to
I
achieve?
think I think my one goal still I want to check off is I want to get a 2-digit number just to
Mm-hmm.
say I was a top 100 rider at
Mm-hmm.
one point.
Mm-hmm.
Just I think that would just check off the boxes for me.
Yeah.
Obviously, Loretta Lynn's I never really got, just with injuries and
Mm-hmm.
financial things. Just never, with my parents running their own company and me working and in school full time. It was one of those things we couldn't go or make it there or to the qualifiers even. And
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those boxes I never checked off. And hopefully in the future, if I have kids, I can get my kid to hopefully he gets into racing. I think that'd be, to me, I know it's a really good family bonding sport, and I know it's brought my family a lot tighter.
Mm-hmm.
And even our friends and family, like today, before this got on the view, Ty Latton was here. Him and his dad came over because they live down the road. So they come over, and I spend most of the winter with Ty. So me and Ty will go for runs and train together. And
Nice.
for me, it's nice that I can work with Ty. If I'm hurt, I still had people over. I coached with my broken leg. I was out there with crutches, helping people out and letting people use my track still, just to stay around the sport. And
Mm-hmm.
went and flagged a weekend too when I was hurt, and it was
Wow.
just giving back to me. Is
See, that's the
To me,
thing.
it's giving back, and
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was giving back, and it was kind of one of those things. I couldn't go to work full time with a broken leg, so I got told if you want to flag, come to the races this weekend. We'll give you a jump that's easy to flag, and was doing that, so that was good. And it was at a sand track, so sand was nice and cool that day. It was a spring race, and on the jump, and because they were okay with me sitting down for a bit, but still made sure I stood up and did my part as a flagger, and
Mm-hmm.
it was good. And definitely doing that one time, I was like, you have to give kudos to the flaggers. It is a very long day out there, and you're standing there for the
Oh
amateur
yeah.
race.
Oh
And
yeah. I flagged many races back in the days without a broken leg, so I can imagine what you felt like during those days. But you made it, man, and that's cool. You're still giving back to the sport that way, and it's good to hear those type of stories because that's what BlackListed MX is all about. Like I said, we cover everything in between, the privateers all the way down to the 50s and to the ladies and mechanics in their garages. I mean, we'll cover it all because we feel that in this sport, like there's so much more than what media is covering. You know what I mean? And a lot of voices need to be heard, and a lot of people are going through a lot of stress, and sometimes it builds families, and sometimes it tears families apart. And that's just the realistic of it in the sport. But those are stories that we need to hear out of you guys because you guys are there a lot more, and you guys are going through the emotions almost on the regular basis when it's that time to shine. For you guys. So it's highly appreciate you guys even putting in an effort to even giving back to the sport.
no, it's definitely for me giving back to the sports the whole thing. It's without if you can't give back, you take away from maybe the little kids going. They're looking up to us, and we like to look down. I look down at them and go, I wish I to remember I remember when I was racing the 50 class and stuff like that. So it was a good feeling to give back this year and be able to do that more. And It was good to see help the kid improve this year, and he was happy having a pro hang out with you all the time in the pits, because I'd go over and have dinner at their trailer and go for a walk with them and stuff and talk about racing, just about life, just because I know like racing, you see a lot of the little kids that aren't kind of in the sport, and to the kids in the sport, and I find a lot of the little kids in the 50 class are a lot more mature, maybe from racing. They have that competitive edge, and it's kind of cool to see them grow up and hopefully be a part of their careers and maybe get to work with them all the way to the top. Would be a cool feeling. But that's where the kids want to go in racing, is they definitely, from helping out, I want to take them where they want to be in the sport. And I know for me, I didn't really have that mentor for a while, and then Kyle Keese kind of stepped in for a bit and was helping me out, just kind of giving me tips here and there. So to give back what someone did for me is something I really wanted to do with racing, and hopefully I have the chance to help more kids out. But right now I got two I really help out, kind of like priority, with Ty and Jax Jenkins, one of the 50 riders.
Okay.
So that's kind of, to me, help out them a little more and get them where they want to be in racing.
Okay, so let's talk about a little bit more about your racing. You've been racing for a while. You've been pro for a while now. Is there anybody that you just lined up against and you just know that you just wanted to beat them, or you just weren't comfortable? You guys had like some type of ego or some type of grudge between. I mean, everybody's got a guy that, one or two guys that may last for a little bit, it may last for a couple races, but that camaraderie or that negativity between the two riders, do you have anybody out there that you kind of had a little bit of beef with for a while? You don't have to throw any names. I'd love to hear the story.
I think this year for me, like my biggest competitor was someone I grew up racing kind of all the way through with, Nick Jones, and kind of riding with his girlfriend's brother and stuff, Ben Misselbacher, and riding with them before outside of racing. So lining up with Nick was one of those things. Like I used to look up when I was on 85, I'd look up to Nick. So when I got the opportunity this year, Nick and me both lined up at the 450 class. It was always a back and forth thing with two of us. So I know there was a couple races this year. It was drive into the side of each other and take really aggressive block passes where people would look like it's a real dirty pass. And we were all good and heated right after the race. Obviously, you're mad, you get taken out. And then so I got taken out the one moto, and I made a charge back to him halfway through. He T-boned me, and then I made a charge back at the end of the moto. And the way he made it seem, he's like, I was going for a one rut, and he's like, I don't know how many ruts you jumped over and took my front wheel. But he's like, I hit you, and I sound like I hit a train, because all I said, he's like, I hit you third gear on a 450, and you didn't move.
Oh, wow.
After the way, got up, and next day, I was like, his son came up to me, and he's like, kind of got scared of me, and the kid knows me, and he goes, you took out my dad, and I was kind of laughing about it with Nick after. It was kind of a fun thing, just like that friendly battle. We still have that on-track beef. It's kind of a nice feeling.
Yes.
Definitely before, as an intermediate Transcan, Jordan LaBelle, he's a pro snowcross rider now, but me and him had a lot of on-track beef, being like that Ontario-Quebec rivalry for one, and then battling every moto. Me and him were kind of right in that podium spot. So the one race I spent the entire 20-minute moto taking the roost off his 450 and put a good show on, I think, for the crowd watching that one. And
nice.
That was always a fun one, because it was one of those things after you're always heated in the moment after, then you kind of go back to the pits, you kind of go over how your race went, kind of what can I do better, what can I do different next time, and then after you go out and you kind of all joke around about how fun it was, because in the end we're all in the sport for the same reason. We enjoy riding dirt bikes. And
Exactly.
I think when you come off the track and you have that off track, that rivalry, and you can come off after and joke about it and still be buddies, I think that's part of the best for me. I've never been one to really hate anyone after a race and talk bad about them in the pits, because they're all at this level now, especially, everyone's a good rider.
Yeah.
Even though there's still that really big gap from the top guys to the back bunch, where they're still all amazing riders in the 450 class and the 250 class.
And I know it seems like the Canadian guys in the moto, is like you said, are a little bit more relaxed, but they're still hella fast. And a lot of guys, they head back south and they realize, man, am I being too relaxed, or how do I pick it up? Where do you feel that you can gain more speed without even having to go back to the States to practice? Because here, like you said, you only get so much time to practice throughout the year before the racing season even begins, and then you start training or whatever. You got a job, so it's hard. I know it's a little bit difficult for you to kind of probably be consistent with it, but is there any other ways that you're going to train differently to be able to pick your speed up, or take yourself to the next level?
I think just kind of try and be on the bike more often. To me, just I think that's the best training. If you can't be off, if you're going to do training and preparing yourself for races, I think if you have short time, I think being on the bike for me is the best. Just having seat time,
Mm-hmm.
because I know this year coming into the first race, because we didn't start till middle of June. I came in the most prepared I've probably felt racing since I've started racing,
Mm-hmm.
which was a really confident feeling. And then, but I think probably try and get more like agility training, just like quick motions, and I think that's one thing I need to work on. Like my reaction time on the start gate is probably one of the worst. You can always count if you're looking for me on the start. You can usually look at the back. So
You gotta
that's
look.
kind of that's the way my starts have been. I had 1 year I had good starts, and this year was not that year. So
Okay.
starting at the
Okay.
back of the pack, I always make for some reason I like to make it hard on myself, as Dad says. I don't know why I don't like to start at the front, but
Well, you got a
we
track
kind of
at
joke about
home,
that.
man, so you can definitely, take advantage, full advantage of that for sure. You know, a lot of guys aren't
Yeah,
blessed to be able to have tracks, in right out of their garage or right in their backyard. They got to drive so many hours and load it up, and it takes so much time, and then they get their ride in. They come back home if they want to go. They got to wait another day or two or head a different direction, just to get something different. But it's right there for you, So that's the lucky part, for you, the blessed part for you to be able to just crank it up and then whip out the 150 and ride right in your backyard. It's got to be an awesome feeling for that.
yeah, it's definitely good when your only problem to go riding is you got to drive to the gas station to get gas. It makes it a lot easier with the gas station for me being up the road 2 minutes. So
Hey,
that's I'm in a good spot where
oh,
everything's nice and close for me. But
man, you're
just with
spoiled.
work, sometimes you come home from work and there's some days you have a bad day. Like for me, I took after when I took the break from racing this year, I'd come back from work and I'd be stressed out from work, and I'd just go take it out on my bike and it just kind of clear my head. Because to me, it's one of those when you're riding, it's one of those times that's the most free your brain is, because
Mhm.
you're not thinking about, like when I road cycle, you're thinking about other stuff, or you're thinking of racing when you're working out or driving in a car. I find you're always thinking about everything but just driving the car. And with
Yeah.
riding dirt bike, I find you're mentally like you're just free at that point in time. It's like it's just you and the bike, and it's like to me, it's a really nice feeling when you can have that as a stress relief. And for me, having it outside my door is definitely a feeling that's really good to have. And I know
Mhm.
a lot of pros and amateurs and everyone that rides is something they wish they had, and
Mhm.
definitely take full advantage of that
No,
when I get
yeah.
the chance to.
No.
Especially now with the daylight savings time in effect, you don't get to go out if the track's ready. It's dark when you get home, so
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
I
Yeah, that's true.
haven't got blessed with a light bar yet.
Well, you keep training and do what you're doing, man. There's miracles that happen all over the place, and hard work. A lot of things, a lot of people get blessed for just putting in the determination. And if you got that mental block, it's gonna block you. And if you don't, you just it's like sometimes when one door closes, another one opens, and a lot of people don't realize certain things unless they push themselves to that limit. A lot of people back off of it before, because you know how the sport is in motocross. You got 40 guys on the line. They focus on the top 10, but the other guys, it's a little bit more of a struggle for everybody else to be able to even maintain the bike, or maintain to get to the races. So, but a lot of guys don't give up, and they get to that point where they want to give up mentally or physically. This is not for me. It's costing me too much money. And some guys stick in, and it's just like, well, a door may open for them, and they get that opportunity, and they run with that opportunity, and it just opens up more doors for them. So, like, I know you're putting in a lot of work, and we definitely at BlackListed MX, we wish you the best, and to you and your career, no matter what direction it goes. But we just want to thank you as well for even taking your time out to come be on the show with us and tell us your stories. And the door is always open for you and your friends and your networks, or whatever the case may be, for them to get their stories out as well. Because there's, like I said, there's a lot of stories that need to be heard, and a lot of people don't know who you are, or even who I am. I can give you a rundown, but you've never met me or never seen me up until pretty much this point, But I've been in the moto industry for about 20 years, and it's just one of those things where I said, you know what? I want to do my own thing now. You know what I mean? So, and there's not nobody covering privateers. There's not nobody covering the grassroots. But there was a door open for me for do it, and I just said, you know what? I'm just going to do this, and that's just how I was mentally, and I pushed myself to do it. So here I am now. You're my second interview, and it's a pleasure having you on the show, telling your stories as well, man. So thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely a pleasure. And what you're doing is great for the sport because, like you say, like you get the top 10 guys, the spotlight's on them, but bring in, get the stories from the guys running in the top 20, the top 30, the kids in the junior class and the beginner class, the 85 riders, everyone coming up because everyone sees the sport different, right? So to
Exactly.
me, if what you're doing is great for the sport.
Thank you, and I highly appreciate that, man. And the doors are always open. So I want to close out this interview, but before we do that, is there anybody that you want to thank? You got some sponsors? Anybody out there that you want to plug, or anything like that? And any
Uh,
other stories you want to tell?
Oh no, definitely just want to thank so this year I got my first paying sponsors this year, so definitely like with for TEG Contracting for their support, Old Rail Coffee, FNX Fitness, they were huge with my fitness program, getting me in shape. Definitely felt better using their product. O'Neill, the X brand, Garnet, Works Connection, Hinson, and Micah Metals, MD Distributions, and everyone that stands behind me, my friends, my family, my girlfriend, other racers that ride with me, and just
Mm-hmm.
everyone, just kind of everyone that pushes me to keep going and stands behind me through the hard times of racing and the good times.
Hey, well, we got your back, man. We're always open. We're a platform for you to speak. So if you ever want to make your return back, just reach out, man. Our doors are always open. Like we don't just do interviews here. I like to build relationships. You know what I mean? So you may have a story, your first national that you want to get off your chest, or you just want to vent, or whatever the case may be. It might be something funny. Who knows? But the doors are always open for you, man, and we appreciate your time for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on the show, and hopefully
No.
we'll do it again sometime.
Oh, we will. We will. That's a definitely, man, for sure. So I'll
All right, bye.
right on.